talk about Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers. Right now, the 76ers are the 11th seed in the Eastern Conference. And this is after they just made the NBA playoffs the year before and they lost against the New York Knicks. So what the hell happened? Well, a lot of their depth pieces are no longer with this roster, and Joel Embiid has been dealing with injuries all season long. Tell me what's new. I want to start off with Embiid and his entire tenure with the 76ers so far before I get into Tyrese Maxey and the same with Paul George. Embiid is one of the best players in the association. He's easily a top 5 player when he's fully healthy. But that's the thing. Joel Embiid is barely healthy. When you look at Joel Embiid, he'll start the season red hot. Then the next thing you know, for the last 20 games of the regular season, he doesn't look the same. He hasn't been dominant on a consistent basis because of the knee injuries, because of the back injuries that he suffered before when he was younger, the foot injury that he's had, and the elbow injury. And this man had a face contusion just a couple of weeks ago. So now look at Joel Embiid. He is an injury-prone player. It's not me saying that he's a terrible player that you can't build around him, but you have to be cautious with that. And he's not going to get healthier as he gets older because he is a bigger body in the association. And I look at Joel Embiid right now. He was dealing with a knee injury last year. That's why you saw him have some off nights in the NBA playoffs against the New York Knicks. But he went to go play with Team USA in the Olympics, and they won a gold medal. Shout out to Team USA with Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Stephen Curry. Joel Embiid should have not went out there. He should have not traveled to France with that team because he never fully recovered from that knee injury. He came out a couple of days ago and he confirmed, more than likely, I'm going to have another knee surgery this offseason because I'm still dealing with knee soreness. If that's the case, why is Joel Embiid playing right now? You're the 11th seed. You're not better than the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're not better than the Boston Celtics. I don't even think they're better than the Miami Heat right now. Record-wise, for sure they're not. They're not better than the Milwaukee Bucks, even though they're fully healthy with their entire roster because they don't have the depth pieces coming off the bench. So now look at the 76ers. You want to take care of Joel Embiid, you shut him down for the rest of the season. Because Paul George right now, unless something just unforeseen happens within the next couple of months, he's not going to turn the clock back around and look like how he looked even last season with the Clippers. But I do feel for Joel Embiid on this level. He can't help his injuries. And this is something that I want to bring back up with Anthony Davis when I made that video just a couple of days ago. I don't blame players for their injuries. You can't help it. Some players deal with a lot of injuries. Some players, they're blessed that they don't. But when I look at Embiid, it's always something. When he falls down, you hold your breath if you're a 76ers fan because you're like, man, please don't let it be his back. Don't let it be his knee. Please don't let it be his face. But he's always dealing with an injury, and he will have his moments where he comes up short in the NBA playoffs. A lot of that is because he can't defend to the next level like how he would in the regular season because of the injuries and because of the mileage on his body. That's why it was essential to bring in a name like Paul George. That's why they always try to bring in different stars around Joel Embiid to take the workload off of him. That's why they brought in James Harden, even though that didn't work out. That did not get them over the hump. We're talking about the 76ers organization that has not been to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2001. That's the last time that this organization has went that deep in the playoffs. And you've had a lot of good basketball players with this organization. James Harden is one of them. You didn't have Houston James Harden, but he had a lot of good moments playing alongside Joel Embiid. You have Tyrese Maxey right now. You had Ben Simmons. And I know if you're a 76ers fan, you may say, F off with Ben Simmons. And I don't blame you. For the first couple of years of his career, Ben Simmons was a special player. He wasn't going to go out there and average 25 or 30 points a game, but he was a player that could run your offense. He was a true point guard, and he was special on the defensive side of the ball. He could guard positions 1 through 4. But something pivotal happened with Ben Simmons. When they went against the Atlanta Hawks, he passed up on that layup. At that point in time, he was cooked. Especially dealing with that Philly fan base, they were done with Ben Simmons because he never learned a jump shot and he never developed on the offensive side of the ball. And then you had Doc Rivers come out and he questioned, I don't know if Ben Simmons can be our championship point guard of the future. And essentially, we know what happened with Ben Simmons. They traded him away. And you look at Ben Simmons right now, he did little to nothing with the Brooklyn Nets. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, especially to his back. You could bring up the mental health aspects of things. But at the same time, he did waste a pivotal run for the Philadelphia 76ers by not going out there and taking initiative on the offensive end, by laying the basketball up or even just attacking the paint just a little bit more and learning a jump shot. They didn't need him to go out there and be Stephen Curry or be Klay Thompson or even Luka from the three-point line. He could have easily shot 30% from the three. Just make teams respect it. They crash out. You get the basketball back to Joel Embiid, and that pairing should have worked out, but it didn't. Another blunder by the front office was the fact they brought in Jimmy Butler, which was a great move. And they went out there and they picked Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. And I would never forget when Jimmy Butler was walking to the locker room and he said they picked Tobias Harris over me, which is still a crazy decision because Tobias Harris did little to nothing with the 76ers over the last 2 years. So they have done everything to bring in the right pieces around Joel Embiid and even Ben Simmons at the time, but it hasn't worked out. You brought in different head coaches. You had Brett Brown. You let him go. You bring in Doc Rivers. We know what Doc Rivers is. Doc Rivers is one of the most overrated coaches in NBA history. That's just my opinion. But I look at Doc Rivers. This man always has a job in the NBA. They moved off of him for Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse had a lot of success with the Toronto Raptors. So they have done a lot of different things. Bring in more players. Go through the NBA draft. Bring in some more players around Joel Embiid. It just hasn't worked out. And I think right now the smart thing to do would to be sit Joel Embiid down for the rest of the year. Let him fully heal with that knee injury and see what you have next year. Because Joel Embiid, he has a contract going up into 2029. And I don't see them trading Joel Embiid right now because the stock is low. And you signed Paul George, who is 34 years old, to a 4-year deal that is worth $212 million. All those different players, all those different coaches, and you can't even get to the conference finals. Now, this is where I want to get into the rest of the team here. You had names last year like Buddy Hield, Cameron Payne. Buddy Hield was a solid three-point shooter. He'll go out there and give you big moments, but he will also go out there and he will be very cold from three. He's a streaky shooter. We even see that now with the Golden State Warriors, but you lost a lot of depth pieces because you brought in Paul George. Before I get into the positives with Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain, I have to talk about Paul George here. Paul George has a podcast for the ones that don't know. And he'll come out and he'll say a lot of slick things, but it does offer a very good insight of what he is looking at on the court when he's playing with the Los Angeles Clippers. He went over there, he signed with the Los Angeles Clippers in a trade because they traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for him. Looking back at that trade, that was a terrible trade with the Clippers, but hindsight, you guys know how that goes. Paul George was averaging 22 points last year with the Clippers, one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA. But he will never be a number one option on your team. He came out in his podcast. He said one of the biggest reasons he wanted to sign with the 76ers, he didn't want to be a number 2 option anymore. He was going to be that number 2 option with Kawhi Leonard, but he had to be the number 1 guy at certain points in times because Kawhi Leonard was out dealing with a knee injury, which is crazy to think about because the 76ers really just placed themselves in a similar situation the Clippers were in. When you have your superstar that can barely stay healthy. So your number 2 is now your number 1. But this is a special case. With the Clippers, Paul George was easily their second best player at the time. You come over to the 76ers, Paul George is the third best player when the team is fully healthy. He's the second best player when Joel Embiid is out because he's playing alongside Tyrese Maxey, who is one of the best scorers in the game. He's very good at setting up the offense. Paul George wanted to take an extra back seat to just play alongside Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. But the production is not there. You gave this man $212 million and he's only giving you 16 points a game. And he's not going out there and he's not having the same defensive presence that he once had. When I look at Paul George, it has been a steady decline since he was with the Oklahoma City Thunder. That is when he was an MVP finalist at the time. And that was the best Paul George that we have seen since he hurt his leg with the Indiana Pacers. I don't think that Paul George is a terrible basketball player. I just don't think that he's worth over $200 million on his contract. And with him being 34 years old, he easily went out there and he cashed out on the Philadelphia 76ers. He's been a major disappointment this season because he's dealt with injuries this year and in the past with the Clippers. And when they need him in big moments this year, he hasn't stepped up. When Joel Embiid is able to play, Paul George, he isn't able to play tonight. He's dealing with an injury. When Tyrese Maxey's out there, he's dealing with an injury. Then you have Paul George come back into the lineup with Joel Embiid. And the offense takes a major step back when Tyrese Maxey is out. And that's expected because he's your best guard. But when you look at Paul George, what he has been given by the 76ers, you want to see more production going forward from him. Not him just shooting The splits that he's shooting right now from the field, and with him only going out there and averaging 16 points a night. And he's shooting 43% from the field, and he is also just shooting 37% from the three. Paul George is easily one of those players you look at, he can at least give you 40% from three and at least 46% from the field. But Paul George hasn't done that. And just like in the NBA playoffs, he'll have a big game, and out of nowhere, he'll probably go 2 for 15. That's why you get a lot of jokes about Paul George. They'll call him Pandemic P. They'll call him Playoff PP because he would never step up in those big moments. So I really question the Philadelphia 76ers, even at that time. Why did you bring in Paul George? I know that you wanted a number 3 option, and he was the best player in free agency at the time. But bring in some more core pieces around Joel Embiid. The bright side is this. Tyrese Maxey is a very good basketball player. He's been your best basketball player this season because he's been healthier than Joel Embiid, and he's been more consistent. The man had 7 games in a row to where he averaged over 30 points a night. 27 points a game, 6 assists, shooting 45% from the field, and he's shooting 35% from 3. And he's chucking up a lot of his own shots, and he's setting up the offense because he's their main guard. You do have Kelly Oubre, who has been solid this year, 14 points a game, 7 rebounds, 46% from the field. He had a solid outing in the playoffs last year. But Jared McCain, this guy's a rookie. He was having a very good rookie season until he hurt his knee. And I do believe in the future, Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey, they're going to be a very good backcourt in the Eastern Conference. Just right now, look at the 76ers. You're not better than the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're not better than the Boston Celtics. You're not better than the New York Knicks or even the Indiana Pacers. And most definitely the Milwaukee Bucks. We're talking about the 76ers team that had championship aspirations. And the Chicago Bulls statistically have a better record than them. And the Bulls this year, they're terrible. They just traded Zach LaVine and they have a better record than the 76ers. You're in the bottom of the conference with the Brooklyn Nets, Toronto Raptors, and the Charlotte Hornets. That is how bad the 76ers are this year. And I can't blame all this on Nick Nurse, even though the misuses of timeouts are starting to make me scratch my head. Just like what happened last night when they went against the Raptors. You have Embiid. He gave up that wide open 3 because he's trying to go into the lane and lay the basketball up. Why not call a timeout right there if you're Nick Nurse? You had 2 timeouts remaining. I know that you want your players to just go out there and just fully play and just let them float through the offense. But you could call a timeout in that situation. And Nick Nurse, he knows better because of the success that he had with the Toronto Raptors. But something has to give. If Joel Embiid only had a year or 2 left on his deal, I would be saying, you know what? You call up a team, you trade Joel Embiid, you try to get some draft capital, you build around Tyrese Maxey. In the future, regardless of what happens with this roster, that is going to be the smart play to eventually move off of Joel Embiid because of the injuries that he's dealing with and build around Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain if he can continue to step up. Now, he's going to miss the rest of the season because he's dealing with that knee injury, but that guard play with the 76ers, that's their saving grace right now. And I want to see Joel Embiid go out there and win a championship. We have had so many great players throughout league history have MVP type of season, win MVPs, win a gold medal, but they could never go out there and they could never win a championship. And that sucks because I look at Joel Embiid. I can't tell you right now, even if he is fully healthy, that he can win a championship in the NBA because it hasn't happened just yet. And he has had a lot of good talent around him. It just hasn't materialized. But those names that I listed off with Jimmy Butler, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey now, Jared McCain when he was healthy. Even now, Paul George, but even though he's a shell of what he used to be, they have put all the talent around Joel Embiid and it hasn't worked out. They switched head coaches. But let me know in the comment section below, what should the Philadelphia 76ers do and can they turn their season around? They have an all-star break. Maybe Joel Embiid can go out there and get some extra treatment on his knee, but I doubt it. I've seen this move happen before. And it's also crazy to think about. This team started 2-11 this year. And you have Tyrese Maxey coming out and calling out Joel Embiid earlier in the year in that team meeting. And you have Joel Embiid coming back a couple of days later. Reports came out that he's looking for the team snitch who let that come out. So that's how I know that it was true, because Joel Embiid was very upset by that quote that came out from the reporter that Tyrese Maxey called him out. You have Maxey, the younger player that's in his 20s, calling out the player over 30 to take his nutrition more serious, to show up on time, to be a better player and to be a better leader. That should not be the case. Joel Embiid should have already been that player because of the contract extension that he has already gotten with the Philadelphia 76ers. And this is part of the reason to why a lot of owners are upset in the NBA. Well, excuse me, why a lot of governors in the NBA, why they're upset with their teams, why they are upset with their star players, because they don't take the game serious enough. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.